Thank you so much for coming. We're about to start in a few minutes. I know there's food in the back. I hope you're enjoying. So we have a wonderful topic tonight. We have two speakers today. So Dr. Manesh will introduce our guest speaker. Just as a quick reference, we do have some paperwork as you see in front of you. After today's lecture, we'd appreciate if you fill out the really quick questionnaire. We made it as condensed as possible for you, but we'd like to collect that before you leave. And also, we already have our next lecture scheduled for next month. So that is also on your desk or seat as well. So please, yes, it's a different location at Spectrum Labs, actually. So we have our nice Spectrum reps here. And so, yeah, so it's going to be a different location, new venue. But, yeah, that'll be great. So let me introduce you Dr. Manesh. You want me to hold it?
Sure. Okay, well, hello, everyone. Well, thanks for coming. I know it's been raining all day, and last night it was raining pretty heavily. I know you all have families and kids and homes that you have to go to, so we're going to make it within the time frame so you can get out of here. There's a lot of food here, so make sure you eat well, and there are drinks and some desserts. We're going to have a great lecture. We're going to have Dr. Storm Hagen talk about digital flow and 3D printing, and he's got a lot of fabulous slides to show, and it's going to be awesome. So Dr. Hagen completed his dental degree at UOP. He did his undergrad at UCLA, and so he's been in practice for 10 years. He grew up in dentistry. His father was a dentist.
Mom's hygienist.
Your mom is a hygienist, okay. And great, so a lot of you may know him. He's not too far away from here in Fountain Valley, and he's got a great presentation for us. So without further ado, Dr. Hagen.
Thank you so much.
That's that wow factor. That's what makes you special, right? So let's talk about ROI. This is what the dental wallet looks like. The reps know this. This is what it looks like when they go into an office. Sorry, no money, can't buy anything. And it's because we're cheap. That's right, I know it. I'm a dentist and I own a practice. We're cheap, right? That's just what happens. But there's a reason we're cheap, okay? Dentistry is a very high overhead business, right? I mean, we're like, look at the numbers, we're like, oh my God, we got it down to 70% overhead, right? Like a clothing company would look at us and be like, how the heck do you stay in business, right? This is crazy. Their margins, their overhead's like single digits. And that's just not anywhere close to where we operate, okay? And so we have to be careful, right? And not to mention, practices have variable revenues month to month. All my patients go on vacation during the summer, right? The summer is super slow for me. And so when that happens, all of our team members get paid, right? Who doesn't get paid? Me. I get the dregs, I get the leftovers. So if I'm buying all this equipment, then I don't make any money, right? So there's a reason. So refer back to Section A, dentists are cheap. So we have to be careful, right? We need to make sure that our purchases make sense and that we are going to get our ROI on that. So let's delve a little deeper, right? Let's think about that. How do we accomplish this? How do we accomplish ROI, right? Maybe we need something that has a direct impact on production, right? So we can make the income go up, right? Okay, that's a great way. We can make more money, we can get a return on our investment. Or maybe we can have something that lowers our overhead, right? Reduces our spending. Those are two ways that we can make that profit go up, okay? And I would argue that 3D printing really accomplishes both of those things, okay? Because one, we are talking about it, we're excited, we're providing that wow factor where patients are more likely to go through with treatment because we're going to make that night guard for you in-house, right? I'm going to do that hybrid the same day. I'm able to print it in-house. You don't have to go somewhere else. We don't have to wait for the lab, any of that stuff, right? So we're getting those treatment plan acceptances more so because we're talking about it, because we're excited about it, because we have this technology. I don't know if any of you notice, when you go to a CE class on, occlusion or denture or whatever, right? And you're kind of there, and sometimes I find myself thinking, gosh, I don't, this is great, but I really don't have a lot of those patients in my practice. and then you come back and you kind of start talking about it, and all of a sudden those patients appear in your practice, right? Wow, I didn't know I had all these aligner patients. Well, they were already there. You just weren't talking about it. You weren't excited about it. You weren't passionate about it. And patients really can feel that. They can feed off of that energy, right? Oh man, like he's going to make it here, right? He's going to have his eyes on it the entire time. I should do it. Yeah.
Can everybody hear you in the back? Do you need the mic a little higher? Or
Is the microphone okay? Can you not hear back there? Yes, no, it's fine, or no, you can't hear. Higher. Is this better? No? Turn it up. It's on. I don't know if we can turn the volume up.
Is it on?
It's on.
Okay.
Maybe it's not doing anything.
Turn this one off, maybe. Hello? This one? That one's not on?
No, I can use that.
Okay.
How about that? Oh, so you want me to start all over? Okay, I'll back it up. Okay. Is that better? Can you hear me in the back? Is that better? Okay, good. Okay. Well, you're just reading along. I should have provided subtitles. But yeah, so you know, you're passionate about these things, right? Patients can really feel when you're passionate, and when you say, for example, even something as simple as a splint, right? I say, hey, you know what? I'll show you a picture later, but my printers are right behind me usually when I'm working. They're in my hallway, central hallway, so people can see them. Okay, and I say, hey, you know what? I'm recommending the splint for you. We're gonna take the digital scan. I'm gonna do the design, and I'm gonna print it right here in house. And I'm pointing to the printer right there on those printers, right? So your patients feel that, right? Oh man, it's not just going into this black box. Like doctor's actually gonna work on it. They don't know my assistant is doing the design and printing it and washing it and curing it and all these things. I'm just like shopping on Amazon or something in my office, but but it's being made in house, right? I've got my eyes on it. That's huge, okay? And then the flip side of that is a savings in overhead, right? We're not outsourcing as many things, right? We're producing more things in-house. We're saving lab costs on splints and things like that. And so really, those are both ways that we can increase our ROI, right? So it kind of accomplishes both. It's a double whammy, which I love, okay? So what I want to talk to you first about is splints, because I actually helped develop this workflow. I've used every splint resin that SprintRay has ever offered. I've beta tested every single splint resin that SprintRay has ever offered. Even previous to them having a splint resin, I've used it. So it's a very developed and probably one of the best workflows to immediately offload onto your team members, right? Okay, because it's so well developed, so routine at this point that it's just a no-brainer. Okay. And the way that it works is we start with a high quality digital impression. Can be any scanner on the market nowadays. All you need is what's called an STL file. And an STL file is like a Word document. It's like a .doc. It is nothing proprietary, nothing special about it. It is just a digital model file that a scanner will spit out, okay? So we start with some high quality digital impressions, okay, upper and lower. Make sure we capture the distals of the second molars and things like that. We take a bite scan. You can take it in MI or we can take it with a leaf gauge. I prefer to open my patients up and take it with a leaf gauge. The software can handle both of those things.
What scanner do you have?
I use a Ceric. Yes, big Ceric proponent, so I have a prime scan. And then there are different ways that we can design it. The nice part about the SprintRay system is it is very open, okay? So remember I told you about that STL file. That is all the printer is looking for. It doesn't matter where that STL file came from, we can print it. As long as we can import in the software, we can print it, okay? So that does not lock you to a particular scanner. It doesn't lock you to a particular design surface. Nothing like that. You can use whatever you want. Anybody can design it. That's the nicest part about it, okay? So design options, we can use SprintRay's own cloud design. They do have a great cloud design service that's available online. We can do our own in-house designs if we want to do that. Or we can even outsource it to our lab, to our digital lab. They can design it, all sorts of stuff, tons of things like that. Now, I will say for the majority of my cases, I'll use the cloud design because it's pretty simple and easy, okay? The other times I will use a software called D3 Splint. This software is moderately difficult to use, but I've been using it for many, many years. And really, I use that. I do a lot of TMD work in my office. So if I'm working on a particular case like that, I may want to do my own design. Maybe that's 10% of my cases. Or if I'm doing a full mouth rehab or something and I want to be really nitpicky about the occlusion or design some sort of special deprogrammer element or something in it, then I can do that myself, okay? But the moral of the story here is, however you'd like to design it, you can, okay? Let's show you SprintRay Cloud Design though. This is what the interface looks like, so you can load all of your patients in here. It will link it to a name and things like that. We go and we create a new treatment. There's a whole laundry list you could scroll for a ways on this page of different treatments and design services that they offer. But there's one here called AI Night Guard, okay? And actually this is going to be made by the AI, and it takes 5 minutes. That's not true. It takes about a minute or 2 minutes max, okay? It's very quick. They also have a human design service if you want something special or you know, a particular feature on it. You can have a human design it, but then it's going to be about a 24-hour turnaround, 24 to 48-hour turnaround for that. But for the majority of my cases, an AI Night Guard is perfect, okay? And so you upload the upper and lower scans, you can upload the bite, and it will design it for you in, like I said, about a minute or two. Pretty quick. And once it designs it for you, boom, it automatically puts it on the build plate. It is ready to print, okay? It configures it correctly. And again, looking at this, look how many we can fit on here. You could probably fit another one on here if you wanted to, okay? And even here, it's taking 38 minutes to print all of these, right? So batch. That's the biggest thing I can say for SprintRay because of that time savings. Print as many of the same things, print as many things as you can at once, okay? Because now, with the workflow that they have, we can wash all of these at the same time, we can cure all these things at the same time, right? We can very easily churn these out very quickly, okay? My favorite is a resin called Night Guard Flex 2. Again, like I said, I've tried every resin on the market, but this is my favorite one to use. They've got other resins too. They've got a hard acrylic one if you'd like that. They've got different colors and things like that. But I really like the Flex because it has a teensy tiny bit of flex, which allows us to really aggressively engage the undercuts and get a really nice firm fit on there without it being super uncomfortable to the patient, right? Super tight, or maybe you can't get it off, right? Always really pleasant with a hard guard when you snap it on and then the patient's head goes like this as you try and get it off. That does not happen with this particular material, which is great. And so this is kind of what it looks like inside the printer when it's done. We take it out of there. We wash it with our Pro Wash. When we print these things, they are not fully cured when you take them out of the printer. They're like par baked, par boiled. They're mostly cured, but there is still some excess resin because they were just sitting in that vat of flowable composite, in that vat of resin, okay? And so we take it to our automated processing unit, which washes them with alcohol, okay? And it uses a two-step FDA-approved method, so it uses one tank of alcohol to wash the majority of it off. It drains it out to a tank and then uses a separate tank of alcohol to clean all the excess, the final stuff off, okay? Then we're going to take it out of there and we put it in our curing unit. This is what the wash looks like. So here's our two wash tanks over here. The neat part about this wash is it keeps track of the alcohol. So the alcohol will get broken down. It'll get saturated with resin over time. So it actually keeps track of what you've printed. This is all connected together via the cloud. So it'll keep track of how many things you've printed, how much excess resin is in there, and it will let you know, hey, it's time to change the alcohol in here. And the nice part is there's this little button, this little resolve button. So this is great for team training. If you don't know or it's your first time servicing this, click resolve. It will show you step by step what to do. Drain this out. Transfer this over, add this in, and with pictures, and it will actually go through and say, okay, ready for the next step, click next. If it needs to turn on or activate a pump, it will do it for you, okay? Very automated and all built in on the screen, okay? And then we finally, we'll put it in our curing unit. Again, this is cloud connected. So the neat part is all the all the resins are going to have different profiles for how they're printed, for how they're washed, how they're cured, okay? And it could be easy to mess those up. Well, it's all very solved in this ecosystem. Every resin tank, because the tanks that we put in the printer are swappable, we can have resin in it, they have RFID tags. So we say, hey, this is night guard resin. And then if you go and try and print a model and you don't have model resin in there, the printer will say, sorry, switch to model resin, right? It'll save you from yourself. And then once you print it to the wash, it will automatically load the job and say, hey, I see you just printed a night guard. Would you like me to wash that night guard? Yes. And then as soon as you go to the cure, it'll say, I see you just washed a night guard. Would you like me to cure the night guard? Yes, I would. And it will select the appropriate profile. So that way we're not getting confused, we're not hitting wrong settings, and most importantly, we're following the FDA guidelines so that everything is cured appropriately, right? So we're not putting, now these things are leaving with our patient. We're long past the age of models that sit on our desk. These are things the patient's going to wear every night in a night guard or a crown that they have in their mouth all the time, right? This is stuff we really need to be concerned about. And so we need to make sure that we're following the appropriate guidelines. So once those come out of the cure, they are printed with these little supports like this. And the neat part about the way that it works is the software makes those very small. And so instead of, we used to have to go in and cut those off by hand and then smooth them down because they left all these little pock marks on the bottom. And that's not the case anymore. The software makes them so small. We've got famous hands from our rep, Will Ping, over here to rip these supports off. Famous hands. And so when it makes them really small, all we do is you just tear them off just like that. No cutting, no individual cutting, things like that. It really is really impressive. And it leaves the surface very, very nice, so you can just pop those off of there. Very, very minimal polishing. When we used to have really big supports, we'd spend so much time designing the underside of this, and then we'd just destroy all that occlusion we built in because we have these giant nubs on the bottom. But that's not the case anymore. And so I'll usually go in, I use a little Scotch-Brite wheel and just polish a couple of those little areas. Top tip on that, you can buy these, I think from like Keystone for like $5 a piece. Or you can buy a giant thing of Scotch-Brite on Amazon for like $12. And you could cut out your own little circles. And back to the previous slide, dentists are cheap. I got a lifetime supply of Scotch-Brite wheels that I just put on a mandrel. And we got a little factory in the lab in between patients, so they're in there cutting out circles. But this works perfectly for polishing up any little scuffs or those little tabs or things like that. And then with the new tanks that we have, gosh, there's almost no reason to really buff these. They come out so shiny. But if I do, on the rare occasion, have to go in and make an occlusal adjustment after I try it in with the patient, I'll come back in and I'll polish it with this. It's called a TCS Turbo Buff wheel. That's from TCS Dental and Polycryl. It's kind of like like you'd polish a temporary with or acrylic with, something like that. And they come out looking really, really nice. Optically, very clear. They also make a clear one. We have a purple tinted one, a blue tinted one, different colors, things like that. Okay. And when we go to deliver these, remember I told you it has a little bit of flex. And that flex is mostly present at body temperature, okay? So what I want to do is, when I try this night guard in, I don't want my patient's first experience with it to be, what the heck is this super tight thing, right? I'm never going to wear this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hedge my bet. I'm going to use some hot water, and I'm going to dunk it in there for maybe 30 seconds. And this is not scalding hot. I can keep my hand in there. I'm just trying to get it to body temperature, right? So it softens a little bit. So when we put it in the patient's mouth, it flexes a little bit around those undercuts, and it's already super comfortable. And then they know, okay, I can wear this, right? It's comfortable, it's not squeezing my teeth. And when they try it in that night, I'll just say, hey, when you try it in from cold, it might be a little bit tight, but it'll be like this after a few minutes, after it warms up. And they're very comfortable with that. I just don't want that first experience again, just to be, oh, what the heck is this thing? And so it slots in there very, very nicely, and we can make them really retentive just because of that little tiny bit of flex. And this is not a soft night guard by any means. It's much, much harder than a soft night guard. Just enough to wrap around those undercuts, okay? Material cost to do something like this. It's on average less than $10 a splint, right? That's pretty significant. In my office, it really just depends on how much resin you're using. It's probably $4 to $5 to print this, okay? So at that point, it kind of begs the question of, might as well print 2, right? And that's a great tool, right? It's a great patient retention tool. It's a great tool if the patient's on the fence. A lot of my patients have a vacation home or something like that. Hey, sure, I'll make you 2, right? You can keep one here, you can keep one there, no problem. Or what about a patient, after they've been a patient for 20 years, right? And they lost their night guard or they left it somewhere. Hey, you know what? Thanks for being such a great patient. I'm just gonna make you a new one, no charge, right? How huge is that? It costs you $5. $5! It's like, what does it matter? And there was no work because you just click print again. No big deal. But I mean, that patient's gonna love you, right? Or if you don't like them, charge a full price. Who cares? Still only costs you $5. It doesn't matter. But it's super easy, right? And these files are saved in that patient chart. So anytime you want to recall them, it's not like digging through your lab to look for that stone model. It's all digital, right? You just pull it up and reprint it. If we want to use the online design services, it's about $25 to $30 to do that, and we get about 110 night guards per bottle. I don't know if you have a bottle. Oh, I don't think you have a bottle, but out of one of those bottles that you saw earlier, that's about 110 night guards worth of resin. So that's pretty significant. So let's take a look-see and think about that ROI, right? So I don't know what a lab splint is these days, 80 to a couple $100 for a nice acrylic one. I don't use the lab very much. Sorry. I'm so used to making a lot of things in-house, and if we spend a lot of time adjusting these things, right? One, my assistant's looking at me mad because there's acrylic all over the ground, and now she's got to vacuum it up. But 2, if I spend 30 minutes adjusting this, right? That's expensive. It costs about $4,000 a day to operate my office, right? So that makes my hourly about $500. So if I spend 30 minutes, that just costs me an extra $250, right? Where I could be doing something else. Not to mention pissing off my assistant. And so that's huge, right? And finally, is that case back yet? I think this is a big one. Again, just being a digital dentist is not something that I deal with a lot because I don't use a lab a lot. But it's just become so difficult, I feel like. It seems like almost every time I send something to the lab, I get a call. Oh, that case is not going to be back on time. Oh, that case that's supposed to be there tomorrow is not coming, or today, right? And the patient's already taken time off of work. They've already found daycare for their kid, and now we've got to be the bad guy and call them and say, hey, I'm sorry, we have to reschedule, right? And it's going to be another week, right? And I hate that. I can't stand that. That is unacceptable to me. And so right now, if the patient's coming in tomorrow and they're getting a night guard delivered, somebody on my team will go and look in the lab and say, oh, is the night guard there or not? And if it's not, we better print it, right? Problem solved. Nothing else like this, right? No pickup or drop off, or I think every delivery driver has left California because nobody can drop off a case. It's wild. And so this is just such a huge aspect for me. And finally, the patient wow factor. Like I said, when I design these or when I talk to a patient about it, I say, I'm going to design it for you, right? I'm going to make it in-house, right? And they're going to say, wow, maybe I've had a night guard before, but it was never done like this, or it never fit that well. And I'm talking, we're doing such minimal adjustment on these things because of the digital workflow, because we're not losing a ton of accuracy as we go from impression and we take an alginate or we take a PVS and then it sits in the person's car for 3 hours in the sun, and then right? There's so many areas of error. We're just eliminating all of that and we're making it in-house, okay? So we're not sitting there grinding. I hate doing that. And the patient's looking at you like, sure, that was for me? You've ground half of it away, it's on the ground. That doesn't seem very custom to me. I could have just gone to Amazon and gotten that. And so that's a huge wow factor, right? To be able to talk about that. And again, when you guys have this, you need to put it in a visible area so patients can see it, okay? It doesn't make any noise. It's very quiet, and it's just something cool to look at. And every single patient will look at it. And my assistants, right? They're sitting there watching it. I'm like, get that to work. We got stuff to do. Longevity. Now let's talk about this. Again, I've probably one of the longest users of these resins, so I can tell you about longevity. it's really, really good, okay? The main reason is it is a monolithic material, okay? So do you guys do like hard, soft night guards? Do a lot of those, right? Those things look pretty nasty after a few years, right? We got a hard outside and a soft inside, then they're just begging to separate, to delaminate from each other. And then there's like mold in there, and patients bring it in on their hygiene check, and like we take it out of the ultrasound. I'm like, you put this in your mouth? It is covered in mold. That is disgusting. So no, I don't want to do that. So because we've got that flex built in, we don't have to do that bilayer technique, right? We've got a single material that's not trying to constantly pull itself apart. So they hold up really, really well, okay? Patients simply brush it in the morning, a little bit of water. I don't have them use any toothpaste or anything like that. And again, we can easily reprint it if desired. You know what, if it's not holding up or something like that, doesn't really cost us much. Great patient retention feature, right? But I've had very, very, very good success with the longevity of these, okay? And actually, whenever I get a new resin, the first person to try it in my office is my insurance coordinator, because she's always under stress, right? She's talking to the AI, whatever, bot from whoever insurance company, just grinding away and clenching. So she's my go-to tester for these resins, and they've all withstood the test of time. So they're really, really good. And I just wanted to cover this. When I say flex, again, a soft night guard is like 20 megapascals on flexural strength. This is an order of magnitude. So it's not a soft, squishy night guard by any means. And we moved away from doing soft night guards many, many years ago. The research shows us that's not good, and that's not what this is. It is hard enough where patients can slide across it. They're not getting locked in and things like that. It is very, very different than that, okay? Questions on splints? Nothing. You're all just going to go home and do them tomorrow. Okay, great. Sounds good. Models. I want to show you models. And this is like 2 slides long because, okay, when I first started 3D printing a model was like 10-step process. We had to export it from the scanner and import it to another software to clean it up, and then export that and import. And I mean, it was huge. Like when we looked inside the printer, I was always just like, oh, like let me open it up. Is there something there? Right? Oh, almost. We printed half. Something like that. And now it has changed so much. So I'm going to show you in real time how we do this, right? So I think I made this for a webinar some time back, but we can add the patient name, or we can assign it to a patient. We choose dental model. We choose how we want it printed, what printer we're using, what resin we're using. We're going to import the files here, okay? I'm going to bring in 7 models, okay? It's going to set them all up like this. It's going to upload them on the side. And I'm not doing anything. I haven't touched it. I haven't done anything. It is going to arrange them, boom, like that. Okay, now it's ready to print. I didn't touch it. I didn't close the models. I didn't trim them. I didn't do anything like that. And what it also did was it said, you uploaded 7. Well, I could only fit 6 on one tray. So I went ahead and made you a second tray with the 7th one on there. And if you wanted to, you could go and add 5 more on that last tray and print 6 more, right? It's just unbelievable. Print time here, 30 minutes, right? And again, it's 30 minutes for both of those because they're the same height, okay? So this is great if we're doing, ortho models or things like that. I told you can directly print retainers. You can't directly print aligners yet, okay? The different material properties for those 2 things. So if you're making aligners in-house, you're still going to be thermoforming and things like that. So that process is huge because you're going to be dealing with a ton of models if you're doing that, okay? That's my model slide, right? Like, I mean, how much easier can it get? And you can do this. The neat part about this is cloud-based software. So it's just a browser. You don't need a super powerful computer to do any of this design. It's all handled in the cloud. So what my assistants do is if we take a scan on my Ceramic machine is just a Windows computer, they open the browser on there and they upload it from there, right? So they don't even need a separate computer. And also, I told you that we want to batch things. So as soon as it's uploaded on this cloud, you can access it from any computer. So say you're doing 5 scans that day, well, great, you'll just add them as you go. Just keep adding one and then add the next one when that patient comes in, and you can do it from different computers, different scanners, anything like that. And then by the end of the day, okay, click print, and then they'll go and print all at once, right? Very simple. You can access it from your desktop computer anywhere. You could access it from home if you really wanted to. And then this is kind of what it looks like. I have to update this video because I have a Pro 2 over here now, but this is what it looks like. So after the models are done, it gives you a, hey, it's finished. It actually has a thumbs down and thumbs up, and that's the computer actually tracking the job. So it'll say, you know, if you give it thumbs down, something didn't work. I don't think I've ever really clicked thumbs down, but the computer logs it and sends it into support. So we take that tray, okay? Our wash is saying, hey, I see you printed some models. Would you like me to wash those models? So we pop the whole tray inside of there. We're not touching any uncured resin or anything like that. We wash it. We come back once it's done. Okay, take those models out, pop them off of the tray. We're going to go back to the cure. If we look on the top, it says, hey, ready to cure those models? You bet I am, cure. I'm ready. So we load those inside of there, and then we hit cure. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. I can't, without showing you how we used to do it, we used to do this with like Tupperware and stuff. I mean, it was crazy, like a nail salon curing light, like it was real rinky-dink in the past. So to have a developed system like this is unbelievable. And there's some other systems or other ways to wash this where it sits in a vat of alcohol, okay? And don't be fooled by that, because what happens is if it sits in the alcohol for too long, it starts breaking, right, where it's breaking down the resin. Well, we want it to break down the surface resin. We don't want it to break down our model or whatever we're printing. And so it needs to be in there for a very specific amount of time. So the way that wash unit is configured is it sprays the alcohol up from the bottom and then it drains it out. So the nice part about that and the way that this system is designed is think about how we operate in the dental office, right? We don't have a lot of large blocks of time to do things. We have a lot of snippets of time, right? So a couple minutes in between a patient, you know, whatever, here and there. So all of these things are designed, if you click print, it can sit in the printer done for hours, no problem. It's not gonna break down or anything like that. And then we can transfer it to the wash. Click wash, it does its thing. It can sit in the wash for hours. It's fine, it's not gonna do its thing. And when we move it to the cure, great, the cure will turn itself off, it'll use the correct profile, and it can sit in there, okay? Before, when we were using a vat of alcohol, we had to baby that thing, because if it sat in there for 20 minutes, it's gonna break down your model, so you have to keep an eye on that, okay? So again, very focused on the dental space and the way that we operate, okay? Surgical guides, okay, another great use of this. We use any surgical guide design software. There are a bajillion of them out there, or you can use your lab or whatever. I'm going to show you DTX Studio, which is from Nobel, and you use the software. Again, all you're after is that STL file, right? This could be something that you've done before and outsourced the production of these guides or something like that. But it's as easy as bringing the file in from DTX Studio. Right, again, we can name our file, we can assign it to a patient, and I love that feature because everything gets saved in that patient's file, right? I tell it I'm printing a surgical guide, I tell it what printer I'm using, and I tell it what resin I'm using. And it's gonna automatically set it up. So I load my file from DTX Studio, there's my surgical guide, there's my surgical site, and boom, it's gonna upload, and it's gonna go ahead and position this for me. Again, no user input, boom, done. I can hit print and I can start it, right? It's just amazing. I can go in and I can mess with the tools if I wanted to, if I wanted to fit more or something like that on there, but I don't have to. And so you can see how huge that is for getting your team members to do this, right? There's so little input on your side. It's all done throughout the software. And every day, there are new updates and things like that. Sometimes we want to print these things at a different angle or things like that, so they've actually now built in presets where we can choose what angle we want to print. It will do it how it wants to at the beginning, but if you, for some reason, want to customize it, you can customize it to its end. COIS deprogrammers, I said I do a lot of TMD treatment. I'm a big COIS fanatic, and so I do a ton of COIS deprogrammers in my office as well. These are phenomenal to print. I use, instead of NightGuard Flex, I use a NightGuard Firm resin, which is like a hard acrylic resin. These just come out absolutely beautiful. They polish super, super nicely. Cost nothing to print. Print 2 of them at the same time. Have a backup, things like that. Just an absolutely great use case for that. I'm blasting through a lot of this stuff. I'm trying to get you guys out of here and home to your families and get Dr. Manesh time to talk. Any questions thus far? Still doing okay? I don't think anybody, oh, maybe a couple of people are asleep. I don't know. That's about it. It's pretty good. Full digital smile design. Let's talk about that, right? So this is using Sprint Ray Cloud Design, also has a smile design, but again, if you have a lab you're comfortable with, there's other companies like Evident that can design these for you. You can use whatever you'd like, okay? But the cloud design, it's about a 2-day turnaround. It's pretty speedy. They've got tons of different morphology choices, okay? Things like that. And we've got, it'll make us a wax up model, so we can print out the model with the wax up on it. And they'll also make what's called a trial smile, okay? And the trial smile is like a snap-on smile, okay? Snaps on over the patient's teeth. This is only useful if we're doing like an additive case, okay? It's not great for subtractive cases, but we'll actually print that out of like a bleach-colored tooth resin, and you can snap it on the patient's teeth so they can try it out. It's very cool. It works really, really well. And when it snaps on, it's much better than doing it with temporary material, because then you've got to spend time peeling that temporary material off and things like that after it locks in. This is done digitally, so it really snaps in and, more importantly, snaps off very easily. And it's about $20 a tooth. I think it might be $25 a tooth now. I think, yeah, it's right, $25 now. And so this process, again, starts with an intraoral scan and a photo, okay, and a suite of photos there. So here's a case. Really, oh, well, this is very yellow on this projector. They didn't quite look that bad in real life, but they weren't great. Young girl, tons and tons of wear, acid reflux and things like that, and she's got all these old bondings on her front teeth. Great case to, how could you not improve this? But anyway, so she thinks she looks old, right? She's got flat teeth and she wants a little bit more youthful appearance. Okay, so we start with our pre-op photos, we start with our scan. Okay, we upload that, we do our smile design. And this is kind of what it looks like. This is a little bit older version of the dashboard. So if you looked at the dashboard today, it would look a little bit different than this, but pretty much the same things on it, okay? And here's kind of our morphology choices, okay? And when they first came out with this, they sent it to me and they had all these like tooth library names that nobody knows of if you're not a lab tech, and like that doesn't mean anything to me. Please put it into simple words, okay? And so they included these pictures and things like that, and I'll show you that in a second. We choose what teeth we're doing. We can type in some custom results, because this is gonna be designed by a human, right? Okay? And then they'll return it to us in a couple days. So this is kind of what that menu looks like. And actually what I do is I just printed this out. I have it in my operatory, okay? And that way patients have an idea. Sometimes people don't know. I always ask them to bring in an old picture or something like that, but sometimes people don't really have an idea of what they want their smile to look like, or kind of what they're after. Maybe they say, oh, I want to look more youthful, but they don't know what they mean by that, right? They just kind of know a look. And so this kind of menu is helpful for us. I take off the words, I just have the pictures, okay, when I show it to my patients. But it's helpful to have some pictures, and we can choose that on our design, okay? So here's our wax up, right? Our wax up. Here's our trial smile. So we snap that in there just as a trial, okay? Right, not bad. We can use that as a reduction guide, things like that if we wanted to. And then we can actually go in and we can scan that with our CEREC, right? And we can copy the shapes and transfer it into porcelain, okay? In this case, we rounded off this is the final now. We rounded things just a hair, softened things just a little bit. I think they were a little bit boxy at the beginning. So we changed a couple little tiny things, but very, very minimal from the try-in, right? And this is stuff that you can go back and forth with that designer and say, hey, you know what, a little bit angular, can you just soften those a little bit, and there's no problem for them, right? And so we can deliver the case just like this. Very repeatable. Patient has already seen it, right? They've tried it in as the trial smile. We scan that as our mock-up, and we send it and we get it made, something like that, okay? So again, let's think ROI, right? Maybe $25 a tooth, $5 in resin really to print all of those things out. I mean, it's very inexpensive to do that. I don't want to design these in the office. I can, but it takes me a long time to do digital designs like that, and I just would, it's more worth my time to be treating patients or spending time at home with my family, right? I just don't want to be sitting there at work afterwards, so I'd rather outsource it, right? I don't know what designing a tooth costs in the lab these days, but I think it's somewhere up there, $60, $70. And also the time, right? Like, I know that this is going to be back to me in 2 days. And that's great, and I can do it all digital, okay? And so, yeah, it's a huge game changer for me. And if you're doing full arch restorations, full mouth rehabs and things like that, I don't know how you're surviving without a printer. I'm so spoiled by having a printer. I mean, for printing temporaries, full arch temporaries, or even dividing it into quadrants and things like that, I just can't even imagine going back and doing that without a printer, because I can so easily print basically an entire arch. I can print 2 posterior segments and 1 anterior segment. I can print them all at the same time, and I can print them in less than 20 minutes, right? I mean, there's no other method that I can do that that repeatably, with the occlusion built in, with my design built in, right, without having to go through and manually sculpt everything. And then the great part is, because it takes the same amount of time to print multiple things, print 2 of each, right? You have a backup. That's what all my friends, especially with All-in-X, right? When they're doing 2 of these things, they print a second one and leave it in their lab. It costs nothing to do that. So in case something happens in that temporary stage, they already have a backup made. They don't have to filter through and reprint it. It's sitting in the lab ready to go, just in case. Right? Not that that happens all the time, but who cares, right? It's just, if it happens once, it's going to be worth your time. Flippers. I used to have a really good removable lab just down the street from me, and he was a great guy, and he used to make my flippers for me, and he'd turn them around same day or next day, right? And I didn't realize what a service that was, because generally when I'm making this, unless it's a pre-planned, extraction and implant or something like that, it's usually an emergency, right? Patient broke their front tooth. Now we need to do an extraction and an implant, and they have no tooth. They have no front tooth, right? And so when I send it to the lab and it takes a week or 2 weeks to get it back, that again is unacceptable for me. I just can't do that anymore. I'm not letting somebody sit without a front tooth for 2 weeks, and I really don't want to go in there and freehand something or use a prefab tooth and make an Essex or something like that. And so what I do instead is I design a flipper, and I print it, in this case, out of Onyx stuff. So this is hybrid denture resin. It's strong stuff, okay? And I design the whole thing like this. We can come in, we can use our light curable stains and glazes, and we can color that palatal, or that tissue portion. We can color the tooth. We can even go in and paint the palate, right? This is not lasting forever, sitting in the patient's mouth forever. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. But I got them a tooth, right? They didn't have to go a week and a half, 2 weeks without a tooth. And that's what it looks like, right? We make them claspless, just engage the undercuts on the palatal, okay? And again, that's Onyx Tough 2. That's pretty strong resin. So it's more than capable of handling something like that. But just a huge service, and something I couldn't do without the printer. And as we move along, getting close here, hybrid dentures, right? Okay, so kind of what everybody's here for. Let's talk about the hybrid denture process, but I hope you can see that this is just so much more than an all-on-4 machine, right? There are so many use cases for how we can do, or for what we can use it for, and how we can improve our practice with these printers, okay? And so here's kind of the workflow for an All-in-X, a full digital All-in-X, okay? So it's gonna definitely start with some pre-surgical planning, right? So photos, scans, capturing where the patient's occlusion is and how we're gonna design things. The neat part about SprintRate Cloud Design, again, or other design partners, is that we're going to schedule our design appointment, okay? So we're gonna say, hey, I'm seeing Mrs. Jones next week on Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning. I should be done with the surgery around 9 o'clock, right? That's when I'm gonna need my design, right? And they'll parcel out some time so that you're in the queue, boom, and you can get it designed, okay? So we need to schedule that ahead of time. After we do the surgery, we need to capture where those implant locations are in the patient's head, okay? And then they're going to use that pre-surgical mock-up to go back and merge those things together to create that tied onto the implants, okay? We get the design, usually it's 30, 45 minutes of design, somewhere around there, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. This is perfect because you could be doing the other arch in this amount of time, right? Or a lot of people will actually they'll take the scans before they've sutured, right? So take the implant positions, the implants are placed. So take the implant scans and then get it sent to the designer. And then as the designer's doing the thing, go back, close up the case, right? An assistant can upload this. You're closing up the case, you're getting everything wrapped up, stabilizing the patient, et cetera, okay? We go through, we get it printed, we 3D print the restoration, and kind of some design services that I'm talking about. Again, very open system. Use whatever you want, okay? SprintRay Cloud Design has a well-developed workflow for hybrids. Evident Design Services has a very developed workflow. MOD Design Service, this is a fellow named Dr. Wally Renee. If you guys are ever interested in learning way more about 3D printing, please look up Dr. Wally Renee. He owns Mod Institute out in the Carolinas, and he does some phenomenal work with 3D printing. You should see what he can do with prepless veneers. I mean, he's printing veneers that are 0.1, 0.2 millimeters thick. I mean, there's nothing that, so we can do amazing prepless veneers, and at that thickness, our resins are almost fully transparent. Okay, so the masking, the mimicry of that is amazing, right? And so this is great for young people where we don't have to go and cut down their teeth to put veneers on. We can do very conservative additive veneers on the front of those. And he has a great institute out there. He's a close friend, and he just does some awesome work. Check him out on Instagram if you want to see some really cool 3D printing stuff. And finally, your favorite digital lab will do designs for you, like these guys. So here's one problem when we come to digitizing, right? Okay. A lot of us, does everybody here, how many people here have an intraoral scanner? I'm hoping the vast majority of you. Yeah, for the most part, because that's step one. And fun fact, if you don't have an intraoral scanner, you should get one. The adoption of intraoral scanning crossed the 50% threshold during COVID in 2020. Okay, so now if you don't have an intraoral scanner, you are actually in the minority of dentists. So it's time. It's time to get an intraoral scanner if you don't have one. And intraoral scanners work great for teeth, okay? They rely on hard tissue to stitch everything together. What they do not work great for is soft tissue, because soft tissue moves, okay? Now, if we're building a conventional denture, not that big of a deal, right? The accuracy does not have to be that significant. It's accurate enough for that. But when we're doing a hybrid where it has to rest passively on all of these implants, yeah, that becomes a problem, okay? Because what happens is you're gonna have impression copings, or they're called scan bodies in the digital world here, but the scanner cannot see two of those at once, okay? It sees one scan body, some gum, and then the next scan body. Well, the problem is that gum is moving around, so there's too much inaccuracy between those two scan bodies to get everything. It will make you a model, it will make you something like this, but when, on a very fine detail level, it will not be accurate enough, okay? You will not have things fit correctly, all right? So there's a couple ways that we can work around that, okay? One, we can use a process called photogrammetry. Maybe you guys have heard of that, okay? And what that does is you use these little pegs that go inside of here, these little dominoes, okay? And use the iCam camera, and it takes a photo. And this is a very heavily calibrated camera that looks at the shape of these dominoes, and it can very accurately compute where the implant restorations are in the head. And so what you do is you take a scan like this, you take a scan with this, and then the software will merge them together. So you've got, because this only captures implant position, it doesn't capture tissue, it doesn't capture anything like that. So you merge together the implant positions with the gingiva, and now you have an accurate representation, okay? But this is expensive, okay? Great if you're doing tons and tons and tons of hybrid surgeries, get one, talk to Damien. But It's not great if you're doing a couple hybrids, okay? And so there's a number of companies that have products kind of like this out there in the market. And I, just as kind of a hint preview, that Nobel's Polo scan bodies, which are these things, will be coming out soon, is what I hear. They don't tell me much. I know the name, but soon. And so the neat part about this is, so remember what I just told you, right? The camera needs to see 2 scan bodies at once. So what do? Well, you just make the scan bodies longer. So that's all you do. You screw the scan bodies in here, and now you can use your intraoral scanner to scan these, because now it can see this and it can see this, right? Well, this is not moving. It's rigidly affixed to an implant. So we can scan all the way around like that, and we can accurately get positions of all those implants with our intraoral scanner, okay? And it is very accurate, very, very accurate. So pretty amazing stuff. A neat kind of workaround for a problem like that, okay? And that works the same way. This will spit out a position of the implants. We combine it with a tissue scan, and boom, we can get our hybrid. This is kind of what the hybrids look like in the design phase, okay? We've got our screw holes, we've got our soft tissue scan, and this is what we need to print right here. So again, STL file, that could be from anywhere. And we're going to use our Onyx Tough 2 resin, okay? These are the shades it comes in. We can custom color these with light curable stains and glazes as well. I'm going to show you a video because I thought it was a pretty funny marketing strategy that they did. And this is old. This is like before, I think this was for Onyx Tough, the original. But they took it to, you remember this, Will? They took it to Muscle Beach, and they tried to have everybody break these hybrids. So that's pretty funny, and I hope that shows you just how strong these resins are. They're pretty dang strong. And the neat part about it now is with the printers we have, with that 35 micron accuracy, we can print direct to multi-unit, okay? We don't have to use tie bases and things like that in these. It is accurate enough that we can print directly to multi-unit. We can pop this guy right in the mouth and screw it down, okay? Using direct screws, right? That's amazing. That's huge because we can run into a lot of failures using tie bases. You can create weak points. We're creating, we're carving out pieces of the hybrid to insert these tie bases. So if we can go direct to multi-unit, it's huge, okay? So after we print it, no different than any of our other resins, we're gonna wash and cure it. And then we can go ahead and use our stains and glazes. This is kind of what it looks like coming out of the printer, like that. Polish off those supports. A couple different stain and glaze options to use. Vita Accent as the light curable, or GC OptiGlaze. Great options for custom coloring. That's kind of what I used on that flipper design as well. They've got different ranges of colors and things like that. Really, really nice looking. And all you do is just cure them in your with the curing light or with in the cure box that you use for your resins. Okay. And so this is here. Lower arch is an Onyx Tough 2 temporary, right? So printed in the office. Screw right in. Same day, done. Right, and this is it's so handy to have in the office, to not have to wait, to not have to convert, right? That's huge. We don't have to spend all that time converting. Digital scan, it's being designed where we're closing it up. We print it, and it takes about 25 minutes to print, 20 minutes to print. It's great. We could be doing the other arch. We can be doing other stuff, and we'll deliver that within a morning, right? No problem. It is unbelievable. Questions on hybrids? Nothing? I either answered all your questions or everybody fell asleep. It's one of those. Okay, so I want to talk about Midas. How many here, has anybody heard about Midas? Have you heard that word? Has anybody raised your hand if you've heard of Midas? Maybe a few, okay. I think everybody gets very confused, and I think Will would say that's true. What's the difference between Sprint Ray printer and Midas, right? Okay, and Midas is strictly made for printing restorations, okay? It is not really made for anything else, okay? The build platform on SprintRay Pro 2 is about this big, okay? It's like a big rectangle. The print platform on Midas is about that big, okay? It's made for restorations, that's it, okay? But the difference is the way that it prints. That is the huge difference, okay? And so it uses a resin called Ceramic Crown. There's Ceramic Crown HT resin now, which just came out. It's like fresh off the presses. And it uses a capsule system. So instead of pouring liquid resin into a vat, because that's difficult for us, right? If night guard is a night guard is a night guard. But for crowns, we need different shades. We need things like that, right? We need easily swappable. And so it uses a cartridge system where you can load in an A1, an A2, and you can actually print 3 at the same time. So you can print an A1, an A2, and an A3 at the same time, print all of those things, or multiple restorations at the same time, okay? But it's very easy to in and out, it's clean and simple. This is what it looks like, okay? It's very, very small. We don't have one here right now, but it's about this big, okay? It looks like espresso. Yeah, it looks like an espresso. That's a pretty good description of it, or like one of those, like a small Mac Mini, Mac Pro, like the small Mac Pros, something like that. It's very small. It's much smaller than the Pro 2, okay? And it actually has a little handle. This actually pushes the resin down, but it can also be used as a handle, so you can carry it with you if you wanted to move it into a different operatory, take it to a different location or something like that, okay?
How do you design the crown?
How do you design it? Again, you just need an STL, so open system.
Using Ceramic?
You can use Ceramic. If you have InLab, you can't design it on the chairside software because it will not let you export a restoration. But if you have the InLab side, you can. Yep, you can use whatever software, ExoCAD, 3Shape. SprintRay has an AI design service that you can use as well, cloud-based, and I'll show you that a little bit.
These are permanent?
Say that again?
These are permanent?
These are permanent, yes. Yep, exactly right. Yep. And they are billed as ceramic restorations. They are 60+% filled in the HT resin, which is totally fine to be billed as an all ceramic restoration. Yeah. So I'll show you, really the amazing part about Midas is it doesn't work the same way that the regular printers work, okay? The regular printers, remember I told you it was a vat of resin, okay? And the platform lowers down into that vat of resin and the UV light cures it from below. Okay? The problem is when we add more and more and more ceramic to that resin, it gets thicker and thicker because ceramic it gets suspended in the liquid, but it's solid, right? So it gets thicker and thicker and thicker. And the problem is when you lift that plate off, you're relying on gravity to pull that resin down and form it at the bottom so that it can press down and get cured again. Well, the problem is when it gets too thick, you lift it up, the resin doesn't flow quickly enough, and you end up with air bubbles and things like that. You end up with imperfections inside of your crown, okay? And so there's a limit on how much filler you can put into these resins. And you can get around it by heating up the tank and things like that, and it does that, but there is a hard limit, and it's about 50%. And so what Midas does, I'm gonna show you a video here. Oh my, that's loud.
From the 1700s to the amalgam fillings of the Industrial Revolution, to the cast crowns of the early 20th century, and the synthetic composites available today. Dentistry has evolved alongside materials, but one material stands above all the rest. Ceramic is desirable for its natural beauty, strength, and longevity, but this material is thick and viscous. It has only been milled, cast, or layered. Until now. This is Midas, a new kind of 3D printer by SprintRay, the first ever to use digital press stereolithography, a new way to think about ceramic composite restorations. And it's the most revolutionary product we've ever built. Making a restoration in Midas is astonishingly easy. To start, upload patient scans and confirm the margin. SprintRay Studio uses AI to generate a crown design in moments, then send it to Midas. Simply scan a cartridge and place it on the print glass. This patent-pending device allows Midas to digitally press and shape viscous composites, seamlessly blending the precision of 3D printing with the unparalleled advantages of ceramic composite. A few minutes later, the restoration is ready. Remove the appliance from the build platform, then post-process, and it's ready to deliver. Midas doesn't just represent the pinnacle of current biomaterial technology, It paves the way for future innovations in dentistry. Say hello to the future of dentistry. Say hello to Midas.
So there's a couple things I want to visit in that video, okay? And we're gonna nerd out just a little bit on 3D printing here, okay? Because there's a couple very important features in here. And if I can get my mouse over there. Okay, so first I want to show you the image of how this works. So here are the capsules, okay? And how it works is we've got that little handle I showed. Oh, we had that little handle I showed you, okay? And that handle goes down and pushes down, okay? Yes. Ah, we have one here, even better. Yeah, look at this, take a look when you visit Will afterwards. He has a clear capsule over there. Okay, so take a look at that before you leave. But the way that it works is this handle over here, okay, is going to push down on this red plunger, okay? And inside that red plunger is our resin. So what happens is, this is our build platform. The UV light is gonna go through, it's gonna cure this, and then as that lifts up, this is going to force the resin over, right? So we're not relying on gravity to fill that area, we're actually forcing it in. So this capsule is actually difficult to produce because it has to be completely sealed and there has to be absolutely no air bubbles inside of that resin, otherwise you're gonna get an air bubble inside of your crown, okay? But it forces that super thick resin into that area, so we always have resin where we need it, okay? That's how we get around that super thick resin. So now all of a sudden we can use thicker and thicker and thicker resins. We don't have to heat them super hot and we can force them into there, okay? So that's the main difference between Midas and the traditional printer. And the second thing I wanted to show you is once this crown comes out, okay, take a look at this, okay? When we print crowns traditionally, we would have to print them occlusal down. We wanted the walls to go up. The problem happens if you print it on the side like this, there's an unsupported area. So you print the bottom wall, you print the sides, and then as you go over the top, well, it's hollow in the center, so there's nothing to hold up this top wall as it's being formed. It's being printed in space, so it will never work. So you have to print it occlusal down. Well, the problem is all those supports rest on your cusp tips, right? So then you've got to go through and cut them off, and you're going to spend some time adjusting the occlusion. The neat part about Midas is we can print it on the side. Because that resin is so thick, it supports itself. It supports the crown. So you can print it sideways like that. And so now all we do is polish things off on the buccal or the lingual, something like that. Okay? You're always going to have these supports because it has to have some way to hold on to it. But you can very easily polish that off. So those are two humongous advantages to Midas. Not to mention the simplicity of just being able to load a capsule. If you had to switch back and forth in the printer of different resins, you'd either have to have tons of different tanks or you'd have to pour it out and pour it in and things. It's not really made for quick swaps like that. This is really made for that. And if you saw in there was 3 different capsules, so you can load 3 different capsules at once. And again, you can actually fit multiple things on here. So if you're printing like inlays and onlays, you can actually fit about 3 inlays or onlays on here. And you can print 3. It's not going to limit you to just one. You can print to whatever. You can print whatever fits on that build platform. But this is more so made less batching and more for that. Hey, the patient's in the chair. I'm delivering this restoration right now. Okay. And so AI restoration design is kind of like we were talking about how you get the design. SprintRay does have an AI restoration design. You saw it in the video. It can do full and partial coverage, inlays and onlays, full crowns. We can adjust the margin lines. It's a pretty nice, nicely developed piece of software. Again, cloud-based, do it from any computer. Don't need a super powerful computer or anything like that. When we first started testing this, it drove me bananas because you couldn't adjust the margin lines. And every crown, okay, 80% of the crowns I do have they're flat top preps. No axial wall, no axial reduction, and it would get that wrong almost every time. So it was useless to me. But now we can adjust that and we can use it for inlays and onlays, which is, I do a ton of onlays in my practice. And so it really fulfills all of my needs as far as that goes. And we can adjust the design. We can adjust contacts, occlusion, things like that. So what it looks like, upload the scans, right? We marginate confirm the margin. It's going to automatically detect it, but we can go in there and modify it. And then we can do our final touches where we can adjust that occlusion, the contacts, et cetera, okay? Ceramic crown material, I don't have the data for you on the new ceramic crown material. All I can tell you is that it is stronger than what I'm going to show you right now, okay? But this is what it looks like, okay? This is what ceramic crown looks like because it is a different, type of material than you're used to, okay? So flexural strength 136, pretty low, okay? When we look at, especially when we're talking about zirconias, where we're talking about maybe 1200 megapascal flexural strength, okay? But here is the main difference between a printed resin and like a zirconia or an Emax. This is Emax over here. This flexural modulus, okay, 7.5. Very close to natural dentin, okay, and actually slightly more flexible than dentin, okay, versus like a Empress or an Emax or a zirconia is way higher than that, okay? And so what that means is this material will actually flex before it breaks, okay? Zirconia has to be very hard because it will crack, right? Same thing with a porcelain, with the Emax. It has to be extremely strong because if you put pressure on it, it doesn't flex, it breaks, right? That's the main difference. So think about enamel, right? Enamel cracks. Think about dentin. Dentin doesn't crack that often. Cracks usually stop in dentin, okay? Unless it gets really bad, they're usually going to stop because the dentin can flex and it can absorb that force, okay? So that's the way that this works. We chemically bond these in, okay? They are not cemented, they're bonded in, okay? It bonds beautifully. I don't know, is anybody in here a CEREC user? One. Are you like a long-term CEREC user? Did you ever use Lava Ultimate? No? Okay. Well, I put this because those of us who've been in the CEREC game a long time, there was a product called Lava Ultimate. And it was kind of a similar sort of thing. It was like a resin-infiltrated hybrid block. And it was touted in the same way that I'm just telling you right now about this. It flexed beautifully, and it really did. It flexed, it didn't really break. The only problem was it didn't bond. It just debonded all the time. And the reason was, originally we thought it was because it was flexing, and it would kind of rock itself off the tooth. But what we later found out was the way that they cured the resin, there was no bond. It was so completely cured that it was inert. There was no bonding sites left on the resin. So there was nothing for our bonding agent to stick to, okay? And so ceramic crown is about 96% cured, which is great because that leaves a ton of bonding sites. And I can tell you, the studies one show, but this is Emax again, so bonds as well as Emax. And I can tell you from doing the beta testing, I'm, again, probably one of the longest running users of these ceramic materials because I used it a year before it was released to the public. They bond extremely well, and they don't break, okay? They don't really break. They will wear, and I'm gonna be very honest with you, okay? These are not your second molar zirconia restoration replacements, okay? And that is the best part about dentistry, right? Otherwise, our job would be super boring every day if we just did the same thing over. Oh, there's a crown. There's a tooth. I'm going to put a crown on it. It's going to be zirconia, right? That's just boring to me. We have, for CEREC, for example, we have 40 plus materials that we can use on CEREC. And I use probably 30 of them. I use a ton of different materials because there's no one trick pony. There's no one material that is best for everything, right? There's always compromises. And so this material is perfect for conservative crowns. It is phenomenal for intercoronals and partial coverage, okay? It is unbelievable because the fits are so good. We can make any geometry we want with that 3D printer, okay? Because there's nothing in the way. It's creating it from nothing, okay? So we can make any shape, any curve, any angle, and we can print it super thin in areas where we need to. So the fits are unbelievable. They are better than my CEREC any day, anytime, okay? I'll tell you that right now, and I love CEREC. But there are inadequacies when we mill these things. The burrs are 1 millimeter large. So if there's a feature that is smaller than 1 millimeter, it's going to hog it out to 1 millimeter, and you're gonna end up with a small gap for your cement, okay? The cement will fill it. It's not gonna be the end of the world, but it's not perfect, okay? Printing does not have that, okay? It is unbelievable, and I wanna show you what that looks like, right? So Look at this fit. I promise I went and removed that cement. But look at that adaptation. It's perfect. Maybe my assistant's cone cut wasn't perfect, but this is beautiful. I didn't say anything. It served its purpose. It was fine. Same thing here, right? This number 14. Look at that. I mean, it is dead on perfect, okay? This is a temporary bridge, so you can't see the cement because it's got temp bond underneath it. But you can't tell where it ends and where the tooth begins. You cannot tell. It's unbelievable, okay? And these are printed in less than 10 minutes, okay? Right? And again, multiple. So where this really shines and where I use it a lot too is even on like class 2s, okay? A quadrant of class 2s, right? I'm not gonna say that I build those all as crowns or anything like that. Sometimes I do it just to save my neck, okay? Back to back to back to back composites, and I'm gonna sit there with rings and bands and all this stuff, and my back and my neck is gonna hurt, right? No, I'm gonna prep those 4 fillings, I'm going to scan them, and I'm going to print them all at the same time, and I'm going to cement them all at the same time. And the best part about that is I didn't sit there fuddling and probably cussing under my breath at these stupid bands. No, I got out of there while my printer was printing it, and I went and did a hygiene exam, okay? Or I don't know, shopped on Amazon, I had something, got a cup of coffee, put my feet up, I don't know, something, but I didn't hurt my neck, and I wasn't unhappy, because nobody likes doing class 2s. So that's a great way. And again, I think the patient is getting a better restoration than a direct composite in that case. Do I charge them more? No, not always. I do build this as a crown. If I'm doing something like that, I'll bill it as an inlay or an onlay. It's great for temporaries as well, right? This is just an awesome use to be able to print something like that in 10 minutes. It's great, really, really great. Here's a quick flipper design. Color doesn't look great on the screen, but or not flipper, I'm sorry, Maryland bridge. Placed an implant, she's got a super deep bite, no room on the palate for a flipper, right? So prepless 3D printed Maryland bridge temporary, okay? You could never mill that. I didn't prep the lingual of that tooth at all, but think about the anatomy of that lingual. There's a bunch of grooves and pits and probably sharp angles and things like that that a mill could never reproduce, but the printer doesn't care. Just print it, slap it in there, bond it on, and then cut it off when it's done. Okay, and I'll show you, this is the new Crown HT resin. So this is kind of some wear tests, right? So when we compare it to milled composites or we talk about directly layered composites, we've got lower wear on all those things. Again, this is not indicated, it's not gonna be used for that second molar heavy Bruxer patient, okay? And I can tell you very honestly from a beta tester, yeah, it's gonna wear away if you do that, okay? But if you use it intercoronal or use it in a bicuspid area or even a first molar area, it's gonna perform really, really well, okay? It's going to be very, very aesthetic now with the new HT resin. I'll show you a picture of that in a second. And it's gonna fit unbelievably well, okay? And it's gonna bond really well. So this is an idea. So actually all 3 of these are onlays, custom stained with those light, and this is Wally Renee, so the MOD Institute I was telling you, just some unbelievable stuff that he does, okay? These are tinted with those light cured resins. He was doing a lot of the beta testing with the new HT resin, so he's got a lot more time than the rest of us with it. And check out these prepless veneers. Look at how clear that is. It's unbelievable. I mean, I think these are 0.2 millimeters. You could never mill something 0.2 millimeters with ceramic. It would just break all day long, but not out of this because it has some resin component to it. You can make it really, really nice and thin like that. And when you cement that with a clear or tinted cement, right, it's gonna pick up the color of that underlying tooth beautifully. It's gonna have a really, really nice chameleon effect. I wanted to talk about a few different attachments, okay, for the Pro 2. Okay, so remember I told you there's a build plate that's about this big, okay? Right? That's great for printing models, tons of night guards, things like that. There's also something called the Arch Kit, so it has a little bit smaller build platform, and this is perfect for hybrids, okay? We can put less resin, we don't have to use as much resin inside of there, and we can go faster with Arch Kit, okay? So this is the attachment that allows us to get those 22, 25-minute print times for full arches. And again, you could probably fit 4 of them on here, you could print a ton in that 25 minutes, okay? You saw this picture before, that's kind of what it looks like here. We don't have to use, you can use the bigger build platform, it's just gonna take a little bit more time, okay? So here's an idea, yeah. So from the big build platform, we have 35 minutes, we can take it down to around 20 minutes for a hybrid, right? We can basically bring everything down shorter using something called the Arch Kit. And this stuff just snaps in and out, it's all very modular. And if you use it for your hybrids, that doesn't mean you have to use it for your night guards. You take it out and swap it back and forth, no problem. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the tech in the new Pro 2, because this has been a huge change. It came out last year, but the design is really, really nice. And they've taken a lot of our feedback and some of our gripes with previous printers and whatnot and added to it. So some of the big things are, one, this lid didn't used to have a handle, so we'd get fingerprints and marks all over it, so nice handle on the front. There's a huge screen on the front. This screen is Gorilla Glass, so it's very easy to keep clean. You get a preview of what you're printing in case you forgot to label it and you're not sure what you're printing. You can look and say, oh yeah, that's the one with the night guard that I needed today. It's designed to fit very well into your office, so it has a hinging lid, but it doesn't need a lot of room for that to happen, and you can play with it over there. And I think it looks really nice. I think it's a nicely designed product. So I have it, like I said, in my walkway, right? So every patient, when you saw that video, when you walk past it, those are my hygiene operatories. So every single patient who comes in for hygiene is gonna pass my printers, and then my treatment ops are right next to it, okay? So everybody sees it. These are the resin tanks that you use. So you'll store your resin inside of here. It's got a lid for when you're not using it. You can stack these on top of each other for inventory control, and there are RFID tags inside of there that keep track of what resin's in there. Okay, so you're not mixing up what's what. It also keeps track. These are a consumable. They will last a very long time. Multiple bottles of resin, but it keeps track of the life of the tank. And it will say, hey, this tank is getting close to the end of its life. You might want to think about replacing it. It's not going to stop you from printing. It will let you keep going. But if you start to notice changes in your print quality or something like that, then hey, be advised, it's probably time for a new tank. This is a really cool intro that's coming soon. They just launched this like a couple weeks ago. I was on the webinar a little while ago. It's called the Pro 2 Duo Kit. So now you can print 2 resins at the same time. Okay, so think denture teeth, denture base, right? Something like that. We can print both of those things at the same time, which is awesome. Super, super handy. Great to have 2 different resins to be able to do that. And you could swap these out. These kind of come out. You can swap in a different one, things like that. And that's coming soon. So here, like I was showing you, like denture teeth and the denture base at once. You can do hybrids in a separate gingival portion if you don't want to stain and glaze the hybrids. You can actually use a separate pink resin and lute that to the hybrid. Okay. This is what the curing unit looks like. It's called the Nano Cure. Again, very, very small, maybe this wide, this tall, maybe this long. Okay. Very, very small unit. It's got a screen on the top that you saw. You could choose the resins. This uses a combination of heat and UV light to make sure that we're getting a full cure, full strength out of these materials. And I want to show you, also what the retainers look like, okay? Direct print retainers, huge. AI design, take scans of the upper and the lower and a bite, upload it into the AI. The AI it doesn't even charge you for the retainers design right now. It's free. It will spit out 2 designs. You plug it into the software just like you saw before, except you tell it I'm printing a retainer, and it will print these retainers for you. Amazing, amazing versus making a model and a suck down and all that stuff. And I want to leave you with one final, really simple thing that you could do tomorrow. Not that you couldn't print a model tomorrow, but remember I told you I used to have a lab guy down the street from me, right? And he was analog all the way. He wouldn't touch anything digital with a 10-foot pole. And if I sent him a printed model, he would be like, nah, I don't want that. Give me stone. I work with plaster, right? Or he would take an impression of my digital model and pour it up in stone. And so when we did denture duplication, right, we need to take a wash impression and send it into him so he can do that. Well, the great way to do that would be to use the patient's existing denture, right, and do something like that. But we're edentulating our patient for that amount of time, right? I don't really want to do that. I'm not in the business of edentulating patients, I hope. And so this is a patient named Hans, and Hans has been a patient of ours for 37, 38 years, a long time. Hans, when I first started working on him, he said, "Storm, do you know the first time I met you?" And I said, "No, Hans, when was it?" And he goes, "Well, your mom was cleaning my teeth and she bumped me with her belly when she was pregnant with you." And I was like, oh. It's been a long time. And Hans is a total jokester, just one of the nicest fellows. And let's just say he's hard on his, look at this denture. It's got mesh and all sorts of stuff going on. This guy powers through these things, right? And so what we did is we took a digital scan of the denture with our intraoral scanner. This is not rocket science, right? There's a digital scan, and then we printed it out of clear resin, right? We have the perfect custom tray. It's got the occlusion built in, right? It's a direct copy of his original denture, and we don't have to steal it from him. I printed it out of clear resin, so I could even see my impression material underneath it, right? Now, Hans was perfectly happy with this and wanted to take that home, right? He's like, nope, I'm done, no more. I'm taking this clear denture home. I'm going to scare the grandkids. I'm going to be happy. Thank you. No. You can have it at the end, but let me do my job. Right, so we take his impression, great, easy. I mean, it's like cheating. I can see where the impression material is. I can do all my stuff. And then I send it to my lab. And so Hans was happy because he got to keep the clear denture afterwards. My lab guy was happy because he knew what he was familiar with, impression material. And I was happy because I didn't have to edentulate my patient, right? So that is something so simple. There is no software work with that. I scanned it, I uploaded the scan, and I printed it. Simple as that, right? Simple as can be. This is what the printers look like in my office again. My front office is this way. Patients have to walk like this to my hygiene ops. So everything is right here in clear view. And it's hilarious because every time I make I mill a CEREC crown, patients are like, oh, is that a 3D printer? And it's actually couldn't be any more not like a 3D printer. It's the exact opposite. You start with a block and you carve it away. And so I can either say, no, you're wrong, or I could just walk them over and say, no, not quite, but these are my 3D printers, and then I'll show them, and then they can get a night guard printed by it or something. And so that's a great place. Yeah, like I said, they don't really make much noise, maybe a little whirring, but it's neat because the platform moves up and down. You can see a little bit of the blue UV light in there, so it will definitely catch people's attention. So you've got to have it in full view. It doesn't smell. There's nothing like that coming from these. Anything like that with the cure or the printer or anything like that. The wash unit has a little bit of alcohol smell, so that's why it's in my lab. When you saw that video, that's in my lab, but all this stuff is out in the open so people can see it. Okay. And so in conclusion, as I close down here, it's a really exciting time for 3D printing in dentistry and in dentistry in general, and I hope you can feel my excitement and my passion for it, because it is just so cool to have new stuff coming every single day. It's hard to make these lectures because even today I was changing it, right? Because they just launched that Duo kit. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to add those pictures in there and whatnot. It's hard to keep up with. There's so much new stuff, but that makes it really, really, really exciting. The ROI is there, right? So our lab savings plus the increase in production, we can easily pay for our printers and the full set in, maybe 100 night guards. That's just night guards, right? That's not counting anything else. If you're talking about all on X, that's a way lower number there, okay? Ease of use, we've got a validated workflow, right? We're FDA approved, we're following all the rules, we're not killing our patients. We've got cloud design, and the way that it's easily delegatable means our team members all can use it. We're not sitting there babysitting this thing. It's not a thorn in our assistant's side that they're having to, I got to use the printer again. No, my assistants are excited to use the printer, right? Like, great, let's do this. How can I, find the most efficient way to do it? Let me use this. Oh my gosh, there's new resin that comes out. It's really, really exciting. It's fun stuff. And finally, it's something to satisfy our nerdy side, right? We're definitely kind of nerdy if you're a dentist. You don't end up here by not being a little bit nerdy, and so we love gadgets, right? Our office is a office full of gadgets. We've got all sorts of little tools and things, and this is just another tool in our tool belt to use, and it provides that wow factor to patients, okay? Wow, you are on the cutting edge, you have the latest and greatest stuff. That's why I love coming here, that's why I want to send my friends here and my family, because I know that you're going to give them a great service. That's where I leave you. Questions, anybody, anything? Yes, please. How accurate is the staining for veneers? So the neat part about that light curable glaze is you can do it in the mouth. Yeah. So you can cure it with a curing light. So that's really neat. Is you can fully custom stain and glaze it right there in the patient's mouth and hit it with the curing light. And if it's too much, wipe it off. It will wear off in functional areas. So if you're staining if you looked at those restorations in the occlusal grooves, they will stay. But if you did it on the cusp tips, you'll wear off a tint or a color. So it's best to use a base shade that's correct, and then you can add little accents and things like that. But for the veneers, because they're so thin when you're doing prepless veneers, the color really doesn't matter. Rarely are you even staining or glazing those. It's mostly just a shape change because it picks up the color of the tooth so well from underneath it. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Would the patient be bleaching beforehand?
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. So in a case like that, this is definitely not a use case for like blocking out a dark stump. No, you got to go back to a traditional method of a zirconia or something like that to block out a dark stump. This is much more conservative, just changing shapes, fixing small chips, things like that. You can get shade changes if you go a little bit thicker, but you're not going to block out a really, really dark stump. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Another question, anything? Anybody? Oh, yes. Yeah. So the question is for hybrid bases, do the teeth and the denture, do the teeth and the denture come apart? Generally, when I print a hybrid, I print it all out of the same material. So it's all one solid material, and it's that On-X Tough 2 material. So the whole thing is super strong, and then you'll just go back in with your custom stains and glazes and color the gingival area pink. Okay, and then you can stain the teeth or whatnot. But those are colored in the bleach shade or an A1, A2, things like that. You can also print separately a gingival, like a pink gingiva, but that's just like it's not actually structural. It's just glued onto the front. Just a thin scalloped gingiva. That's it. And so if you want to do that, you can use regular traditional cement. You can actually even use just the resin itself. You can paint the resin on there and light cure it on there, things like that. But yeah, the teeth and the denture for a hybrid are never separate. Now for a traditional denture, that's different. The teeth are printed separately from the denture base. You've got a pink denture base and teeth, and those are bonded together. And again, generally you'll use the resin to do that. You'll use the denture base resin because like to like, and it will lute them together. And it's pretty dang strong. Nobody's going to break that off in a traditional denture. Yeah.
And for surgical guys,
Yeah.
different implant system has like the little metal.
Yes. Yeah, so questions for surgical guides for inserts, as far as that goes. Generally the software, so like DTX Studio, it will create the cutout for the sleeve, and you'll just pop the sleeve in. Yeah, so they sell sleeves, and a lot of the systems are like that. Generally, there's a metal sleeve that fits in and snaps into the surgical guide.
So we're running a little behind.
Okay.
Dr. Hagen will be here for more questions.
Yeah, I'm switching it over here.
Okay, great.
Thanks, everybody.